Hi everyone, this is Mei Wong. This will be the second tutorial of our beginner lessons of learning AutoCAD. For our second lesson, we will take a look at creating basic drawing, or rather basic objects. To create basic objects, there will be lines, circles, rectangles, polygons. These are objects. So to create all those objects, we would input the command, and in these lessons we would learn how to use commands to create these objects. To create objects, we would also need to know the units in the drawing. The units available would be millimeter, mm, or inch. So in AutoCAD, to make sure the unit we are using is the correct one, we need to check out the units. Besides, we would learn how to use object snaps to snap on the points that we wanted in drawing. Then we will look at polar tracking and object snap tracking. So to start up the lessons, I would create a new drawing. So to create a new drawing, simply just click on the new button on top. In the new button that we have here, we can choose whether we wanted to use the template drawings provided in the list. In the list, we can see that there are templates for 3D drawing, templates for unit mm for AutoCAD ISO. This is 3D template, and this is ISO unit mm for 2D drawing. To open up without using the template drawing, there's an option with drop down to the next of the open button. If you click on this drop down arrow, you can choose to open up a drawing, a complete new drawing in inch. We call it imperial. Or you want to open up the new drawing in the metric, which is mm unit. So in this lesson, we would open up new drawing with no template in metric. So just hit on the metric. So in this completely new layout, we can check the units. So how to check the units? The command for unit would be UN. Of course, you can type the whole sentence or the words of units. You can just type UN, and you can see it in the command bar. Here is UN spacebar. In the drawing units dialog box here, it shows you the drawing that you're using right now is of decimal with precision of 4 decimal points. You can choose 2 decimal in the list to have a less precision. The scale or units that we are using is millimeter. If you drop down, there are other units you can choose in the list as well. If you are done with the changing, you can just click OK. So next, we will try on creating some objects in the drawing by using line at first. So when you key in command, you can simply type on the keyboard without typing in the command line here. You can type in anywhere in the workspace. So to show that you are typing something, you can turn on this icon here called dynamic input. Once you turn on, and when you type anything in the space, it will show you in the screen that there is this input is type, and I'm typing in L for line. If I'm confirm this is the command that I want, I can just spacebar to continue. So with dynamic input, you can specify the first point anywhere in the drawing. So as you move around, the dynamic input will show you the X and Y axis is changing. So I'll start up anywhere in the screen. If I just click on this workspace here and move along my right hand side, so the further I move, the X input would be increasing. So right now I'm having object snap turning on. If I turn off this object snap and also the polar tracking, so I do not have the tracking anymore like just now. So the problem I'm having now is I cannot make a straight line. I can make angles line, but I could not make a straight line. So to make a straight line, I can turn on the auto mode. So once I turn on auto mode, no matter I go to right hand side, down or up, it would be straight line all the time with 0 degree. So if I wanted a line which is 500, so I just key in on the screen and enter. So once I enter and escape, so my line is very long, I can just zoom extend by double clicking my roller mouse. So this is the 500 mm line in the workspace. If I want to turn on the grid, once I turn on, the grid will be displayed in my workspace, and I turn on the snap mode here. So whenever I move my mouse, it will snap the point. You can find the settings of the grid by right clicking here and go to settings. So the spacing of the snap X would be 10 and snap Y would be 10 as well. So the spacing you can adjust over here. The same goes to the grid X spacing. It will be the same, which is 10. The shortcut key of grid on would be F7. For snap on would be F9. So for example, now I want to close the grid. I can just F7. By typing the F7, the grid off. But my snap mode is still on. So another way of turning off the snap mode is just by clicking on the snap off. And then on the command line it will show snap is off. You can free to move around. So looking back on our line here, if I clicking and select the line that we have, and now we do not have the dimensions. Without dimensions, we can still check out the line length. For this line, just now I created is 500, and I can determine by just mouse over on the point here, 500. So now I want to create another line which is 45 degree slanting. I can just active or key in the line command. I want to snap point here, but there's no snapping point that is available. So at this point, I can turn on my object snap. So the setting of object snap, you can just right click and you can see that endpoint is on. So how do you know whether it's on or not is by checking out the rectangle button available here. So I have center point on as well, intersection point, extension point. It will be recommended not to turn on all the object snap, as it would be confusing later on. So after you have make sure that endpoint is checked, you can just clicking anywhere here to close it off. And this time when I mouse over here, the endpoint is detected. When I click on it, I am still in auto mode, whereby I'm going straight in any directions. So I can turn off the auto mode anytime I want by clicking back the auto button. So this time I want polar tracking. Polar tracking helping us on getting the angles I want. So I can check out the angles available in the polar tracking. I can track 90 degrees. I can detect 45, 30, and so on. So if I want 45, let's see. So when I move to 45 degrees, so there will be a tracking line extended from these directions. So I want the object snap midpoint to be on as well, so as I want to create a rectangle. I want this midpoint, and I want this tracking of the object snap. When I move down, at least there will be tracking for this midpoint. So at this time I can on my object snap tracking. When I on my object snap tracking, back to the midpoint here, I have a tracking down. And I slowly move along this tracking. And I want to get 45 degrees with midpoint as the center. When I found it in the section, I can just click. And then I can close by clicking the endpoint here and escape. So on the screen I have triangle. If I want to check out the properties of the line again, I can just select it and mouse on the point. When you mouse on a point, it will show you the properties or the length of the line. So this is 45 degrees. When I finish checking, escape, click on this line again, mouse over on the point. This is 45 degrees as well. So this is first lesson on how to create lines and using the polar tracking for the angles, object snap to determine the points that I want to snap. By having object snap tracking, I can detect the points that I want and move along the tracking line. So for your information, if you turn on the dynamic input, it will be lagging at some point. So if you want to off it, you can by simply clicking back the icon here. If you want to check the setting, so the settings in this dialog box will show you the dimension input. If you click on the setting here, you can check out what kind of setting you have. It will show 2 dimension input fields at a time. And the dynamic input that we have is showing polar format, which show you the input in angle as well with related coordinates. So next, I want to show you how to use circle. The circle icon, you can find it on top here in the draw panel. And the command line, the command for circle will follow the first alphabet, which is C. C for circle, space bar. I can just draw my circle anywhere I like, and when you click and move your mouse out, the command asks you to specify radius of circle. So radius is half of the diameter. So probably you want to specify diameter as well. According to the command, you can specify either radius or diameter. Diameter is in the bracket rectangle bracket. When the diameter is in rectangle bracket, means it's an option. If you want to select the option, you can type D to select the options, or you can type D, or you can right click to select the diameter in the shortcut list. So if I click on the diameter in the option, now in the command line on the screen that it asks me to specify diameter of circle. So diameter of circle, I can key in 300 for example, and I enter. So to check out the properties of the circle again, you can select the circle and mouse over on any point. So this is 150 radius, 300 mm of diameter. How about rectangle? Rectangle command again follows REC, which is the first few alphabet of the word, just spacebar. Rectangle is to create polylines. Polylines, if a continuous line objects, we'll check it out now for rectangle. So specify first corner point. I'll specify in the midpoint here. If I click it, mouse down of my cursor, so you can see we have two values on the screen. First is the X value and Y value as the second box. So in our drawing here, the positive value will means like in the graph. Going right will be always positive for X. If I go to the left hand side here, the box will show you negative value. How about Y? The Y axis upward is positive, the second box. When I go downward, the Y value would be negative. So the same goes to when I key in the value. So if I have a value in this direction, I want it to be 500 X value. So if I want to go to the next box, just tap to the next box, and I want this value to be 500 as well, but it's going downwards. So maintain the negative value and key in 500, enter. To check the rectangle again, just select the rectangle, and this time it is not single lines object anymore, but this is a polyline object. When you mouse over to the point, it will show you this is 500 by 500. So next we will check out on one of the exercise using objects.